I got my hat backwards, my jersey on, and no episode is going to give me more anxiety than this one. Because we're talking movies, we're talking Clerks, starring Brian O'Halloran, Jeff Anderson, and Jason Mewes. Written and directed by Kevin Smith. You know, there's a million fine-looking women in the world, dude. But they don't all bring you lasagna at work. Most of them just cheat on you.
So first off, that is very accurate. And my favorite is hermaphroditic porn. Chicks with dicks that put mine to shame. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? We're heading back to the 90s. We're going to be talking about a quintessential Gen X film, 1994, Kevin Smith, Clerks. Scott, are you anxious? Because unlike you, I was there.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like I said in the intro, nothing's made me more anxious than this. Like in the 3 years we've been doing this podcast, I've made sure to avoid Kevin Smith movies because I fucking adore Kevin Smith movies. And if you talk shit about it, I think this podcast is over. And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Like, we're done.
You heard it here first, people. This could be the end of the show.
So, and that's the thing. That's why I've made sure, like, this film, it's like, to me, it's like, where were you when fucking JFK got shot? Like, the first time I've ever watched this movie is ingrained so much into my brain. Like, I know what I was doing. I know where I was. I remember the situation. Like, and it kind of shaped me.
But how old would you have been? Like,
I was literally, when I first watched this movie was spring of 95, and it was in the infancy of pay-per-view. Do you remember when the cable channels used to be all fuzzy, but you could still hear the pay-per-view stuff? And then if you stared at it long enough, you might, like, depending on what time you're watching the pay-per-view, you might see like a little boob or something like that.
Is that a boob? Maybe it's an elbow. I mean, at this point, it's fine because I'm adolescent. They're all getting me horny. So
so that's how I watched this movie. Like, I was flipping through.
Wait, seriously, like, you didn't even pay for the fucking movie? You watched it on the Squiggly channel?
No, wait, listen. So it was actually, my cousin called me over, and so we went over, and he was like, he watched it first. He was like, you got to watch this, right? So it's all squiggly, and then the minute the fucking, like, View Askew title card comes on, it was like fucking Moses parting the Red Sea. It went clear. Like, the fucking pay-per-view thing glitched for Clerks for some reason. So it was like it was one of those things that was like,
it Moses or was it Scott Mosher? The Red Seas.
Who knows what it was, right? But yeah, it was one of those, like, things that was like, obviously this was meant to be. Like, I was
Alanis Morissette opened up the clouds and made sure you could see this film.
She was like, isn't it ironic?
Don't you think?
Yeah, so we watched the movie. Obviously, like, I was still too young. Like, I didn't understand the sexual references that were being spoken, but
like sex with a hobo, or actually an old man in a bathroom who's dead,
or Snowball. Like, what's Snowball meant? Like, but the thing that hooked me about this movie, and I even now watching it, right, like, it's the dialogue. Like, the dialogue for this film, it's, for me, it was the first time, that I thought movie characters actually spoke like real people.
Yes.
Like, the conversations that they were having, it was literally conversations me and my friends were having. Like, we had the whole, like, which Star Wars was better, right? We had those conversations, and it made me identify with his work so much, and that's why, like, to this day, I adore this man, right? Like,
I'm Jay, and this is my hero life, me, Iron Bob.
So I would agree. I think that this film. So get ready to drink because I'm actually going to make an association between QT. So I think that one of the things that Quentin Tarantino did really well. I mean, he does often, but we really see, when we first see his work come on the screen with Reservoir Dogs and Kevin Smith's Clerks, is dialogue that's written like, yeah, it's like a half shade more clever than maybe we would actually talk. But like that scene in the coffee shop at the beginning of Reservoir Dogs, them just talking about Madonna and Big Dick and da 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 da. You're like, I mean, people debated stupid shit like that and smoked cigarettes. Like I sat in coffee shops, smoked cigarettes, and talked about fucking useless stuff. Kevin Smith in Clerks, you're like exactly what you're talking about.
Empire had the better ending. I mean, Luke gets his hand cut off, finds out Vader's his father, hand gets frozen, taken away by Boba Fett. It ends on such a down note. I mean, that's what life is, a series of down endings. All Jedi had was a bunch of Muppets.
Regular people talk like this. Like, yeah, they might be coming up with some like slightly more interesting concepts, but we also came up with interesting concepts. The characters don't feel scripted. Like, you know, they're scripted. You're watching a film. You're like, I know that this is written, but it sounds exactly like what you would talk about. And, you know, in the early 90s, I'm a bit young. Like I would have been about 16, you know, that generation that was like 20 and a little bit older, like this was their life, right? Like it's interesting. I was just reading an article about Friends, like the TV show, which I never watched, and how
Fuck you, you never watched Friends.
I didn't, man. I think I've probably seen 2 episodes in my entire life. One of them being
So wait.
Brad Pitt.
Wait. So you watched 2 episodes. So you have watched Friends.
Okay, fair enough. Touche. And how that was like this big hit in the 90s, but it has almost like no real like 90s aspect to it. That Gen X, grunge, poor, you know, depressed, like that is everything that Clerks is. You know, what is the future? What are we going to do with our dead end jobs? And just kind of hanging out, smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee. Like, I mean, you could look at like Reality Bites is another example of that era's film. Actually, this is a perfect time just to me throw my quote in. So Matthew Rosa from Salon.com said, at his best, Kevin Smith captures the zeitgeist of an era and becomes the voice of a generation. I mean, that's the second time we've used the word zeitgeist in as many weeks. But it is like well, it's not my word. It's a real world word.
No, it's your word of the day calendar.
Like Gaffer, right? Like when I got caught on Gaffer and I just kept saying Gaffer. So let's talk about the dialogue. Does the dialogue hold up? And I am gonna like put an asterisk. I get there's some problematic language in 2022, 2023. But for me, this film, it's made in 1994. This isn't like the backlash that Quentin Tarantino gets for Django because he's making like a kind of a modern film and he's using that N-word pretty heavy on rotation. You know, Kevin Smith, this is a time capsule of the 90s. Like, you watch it and you're like, holy shit, man, we talked like that. Like, that was like, especially like the F word for LGBTQ. Like, we're like, that got thrown around like everywhere. Everybody was the F word, right? So anyway, go ahead. What do you think? How do you think the dialogue stands up in current times?
I think it still stands up, and it's still, you know, it still works, in which it's the dialogue is still going to make you laugh. Like even that line, like now where you have, well, it's the line that sold technically Miramax to buy the movie to distribute. You know, when he walks out of the convenience store and he was like, my girlfriend sucked 37 dicks, and then the guy's just like, in a row?
37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks.
In a row?
Right? Like, because in reality, like, if in contrast, like if you're just walking out and you're walking into that conversation, that's all you hear, like the guy screaming at you, like that'd be your first response too, like, fuck, in a row?
Well, and I like the line that comes right after that. It's like, try not to suck any dick going through the parking lot. Hey, you, get back here. Because that dude's like, oh.
Every time I kiss you, I'm going to taste 36 other guys.
I'm going to school. Maybe later you'll be a bit more rational.
I'm 37. I just
Goodbye, Dante.
Hey, try not to suck any dick on the way through the parking lot. Hey, you, get back here.
Yeah, that's 100% a Langford character. He's like, I know this guy. But yeah, it still works. But it's still like, even it for the 90s, right? Like even how you're talking about like the LGBTQ stuff, like it was still a lot more forefront there, where you technically had two heterosexuals, and he's discussing, like, he's willing to be curious, not curious, but open-minded. So that's why he's watching your little quote for the movie, right? Where
Hermaphrodite
he's like,
porn, chicks with
yeah,
dicks that put mine to shame.
Chicks with dicks? Oh my god. Oh my god, I have a disease, all right? I need help. There are no chicks with dicks, Johnny. Only guys with tits.
that porn series is actually a porn series. Like,
Is it
Best of
really?
Both Worlds. Yeah, but it's not about hermaphrodites. It's about bisexual women.
Oh, nice.
But
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the dialogue is so fun. It's like campy, for the when they're doing the Chewy's gum thing at the beginning, and Veronica jumps up on the counter and sprays him down with the fire extinguisher. The hockey scene. I mean, I love the whole conversation about Star Wars and about, like, you know, the first, when the first Death Star gets blown up, it was all just Imperials, but on the second one, it was like contractors. And then that guy's like, I'm a roofer, and he does this whole little spiel about how he didn't take the job. And you're just like, this is so good. It is so fucking good, right? Like,
yeah, like, it's what made Kevin Smith like one of my favorite writer directors, right? Because he has that. He is able to make reality like on your screen, right? Where I don't think a lot of people kind of acknowledge that. But not only that, like, I think a lot of franchises that came after owe their success to this movie.
yeah,
Like,
similar,
I don't think
similar to all the like Tarantino ripoffs that came after Reservoir Dogs with the nonlinear format and all that. Like, it was a groundbreaking piece of cinema.
yeah, like, I don't think, in my personal opinion, right, I don't think you have Scream without fucking Clerks.
Oh, interesting. I want you to tease that out.
Well, think about it. The characters in Scream, they're technically like fucking Dante and Randall right there. Like, where, Jamie Kennedy's character is pretty much fucking Randall, and whoever, what's his name? The guy who played Scooby-Doo.
You get stabbed, you're like, I'm not even supposed to be here today.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Right, but that's the thing. It was all that movie is infused with the pulp culture, right? Like, the way they're talking like teenagers who are like fucking going to the mall every day, fucking going to Blockbuster every Friday night to watch the movie, and discussing these movies while they're there. Like, they even have the fucking Blockbuster scene where they're talking, like, thinking that fucking, I don't even remember the guy's name, like, character's name. Steve Aldrich character is fucking the killer, right? But they're using like movies and quoting movies, which you don't really see. Like, for me at least, you didn't really see that until this, right? Like,
the idea that someone's like in a movie making references to films the way like an entire generation who grew up with like video stores.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, you don't have like Salsa Shark, like, when he's fucking like like, you're like, five, right?
Shark, Chip goes in the water, sharks in the water, like the whole line from Jaws, right? So
yeah, he's like, we're gonna need a bigger can, or whatever the fuck he said, right?
So is this what is your favorite Kevin Smith film?
For me personally,
Yeah,
it's Mallrats.
really? We're talking like Tusk, we're talking whatever, hockey hosers or whatever it's called, yoga hosers, like all of that stuff. Really, it's Mallrats.
When Mallrats came out, which I would have been what, 15?
I think it was like 2 years after this, right? Wasn't
yeah, that's literally when I would have been like 15, 16, where all we could do was fucking hang out. Like, we were Mallrats.
Did we have the Cambridge Center yet?
It was opening at the time. So at the time when Mallrats came out is when you had only Zellers, and you had the bay on the end, and they had the shuttle that went across.
Oh,
but
yeah.
You would go to Zellers to fucking play, like, you'd go play the fucking Nintendo 64, right? Because they had like the little demo there, so everybody would be lined up fucking playing it, right? you'd be trying to pick, because some of the food court was open, so you'd be trying to pick up like girls that you don't even know, like fucking at the food court, trying to be all cool and shit.
That's you know, that generation. That was when, like, if you had a job at the mall, you were like the fucking highest status. Well, wait, as long as you had a job at a retail store in the mall, you were like the highest status individual possible. Like the guys and girls that worked at like Bootlegger and stuff like that, you were like, oh fuck, when I grow up, that's what I want to be, man.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's the thing, that like, because he encompassed what I was like living through at that time. And even now, like, it's still like my favorite. And then like during that time, I was the comic book geek. So when they're having all these
in that time, what do you mean in that time? You're still that guy. What are you talking about?
But I'm just saying it was more. So, you know,
now you don't have to read your comic books. You just go sit in a movie theater for 3 hours and watch them.
I know, it's my fucking childhood on screen. But yeah, so you know, in Walmart's, when they have like the homage to like Tim Burton's fucking Batman, and then they're talking about fucking like
how superheroes would fuck, like,
yeah,
that
the
shit?
Stan Lee cameo shit, and you're like, fuck, like knowing it's Stan Lee.
Holy shit! Aren't you?
Oh, Stanley.
Fantastic for Reed Richards. Can his whole body stretch? I mean, every part, you know, like his...
I know what you mean.
But yeah, like Mallrats is something that's on my rotation probably like every 3 or 4 years. I'll always go revisit it, right? Because I love it so much, right? And I like his work a lot, right? So like I'll be honest, I still haven't seen Clerks 3, but he did do that convenience store tour, and it was going to Toronto, but I wasn't able to get tickets to actually do the Q&A and watch the film with them.
So what I think is funny is, like, so, you know, you've got Brian O'Halloran, Jeff Anderson, who plays obviously Randall. Both Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson basically have only had a career with Clerks, like Kevin Smith, and the stuff that comes from Clerks. Like, they've done some minor stuff in other films, but like, it's like you do one movie and you get paid for the rest of your life, either through residuals or you're in the second one. They've played roles in other, like, Mallrats and Chasing Amy and stuff like that. Like Brian O'Halloran, who plays Dante, he was in Mallrats, Chasing Amy. Jeff Anderson was in Clerks and Dogma. And then, of course, like, there's Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, who, like, yeah, Kevin's like directing and writing and stuff, but they're Jay and Silent Bob. Like, they are a brand. Like, they actually, these last characters, or I guess, I mean, they're throughout the film, you know, but ends up like having a much bigger role in the View Askew landscape, right? Like, Dogma is them. Like, it's their first kind of like standalone film. They show up in Chasing Amy. I mean, they've got a pretty big part in Mallrats as well. So
yeah, but also, you know, how you're talking about, you know, these comic book movies in life, you have the View Askew universe to thank for actually having like a continuous universe, like a shared universe on screen that people understand. You can follow these characters, right?
Yeah, like Brian O'Halloran often plays either Dante or Dante's cousin. What I found interesting when I was doing like kind of my background, so Scott Mosier, the producer, he's produced a bunch of he produced Mallrats and Chasing Amy. He produces a lot of Kevin Smith stuff. He's also an EP on Good Will Hunting, but he plays Snowball. And I remember that term being thrown around. Like, I hadn't even seen Clerks yet, and people were talking about that. First off, I don't think it's a real fucking thing. I don't think anybody actually ever wants that done.
He requests this?
He gets off on it.
Still didn't get me talked into anything.
But I thought it was interesting that the producer, the role that he plays, the primary role he plays, is one of the, like, well, he is the catalyst though, right? Because without this conversation about Snowball, you don't get to find out about how many dicks she sucked, right? So
yeah, like
it kind of snowballed into that conversation,
right? Because this movie, you know, it was done like 20, I think it was 22,000 is how much it cost them to.
So I've got a weird number. I've got 27,000 as a production budget, but then I've got a $230,000 post-production budget. So that might have been after Miramax picked it up and they like actually like had the film stock and everything, because it was shot on like 16 millimeter or whatever. They might have actually taken it to a proper lab that Kevin wouldn't have had money to do like a really good post-production process too. So I've got 230,000 as a post. So that if you were to combine those, you're like 260, and it did 4.4 million at the box office. Who knows how much on like DVD sales, video on demand, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, like but in terms of what I was saying, like because this was, and I discussed it in prior episodes, like the reason why I like Kevin Smith a lot too is because you had a guy who like fucking bet on himself, right? Like he sold his comic book collection. He fucking maxed out his credit cards to make this film. But
hey, do you want to hit the CanCon or the can for this?
What, that they both went to Vancouver Film School?
Yeah, well, they dropped out of Vancouver School. Actually, I don't know. Mosier might have finished, but yeah, Kevin only did half the 8-month program and took some of the money that he had for that, like you said, on top of the credit cards and borrowing $3,000 from his mom and everything else. And yeah, just fucking 21 days of shooting. He worked at that Quick Stop.
They filmed and then he would clean up and go sleep for 2 hours and go back to work.
Yeah.
But the thing, especially like watching it again, like you could see how much fucking fun these guys were having while filming this movie. Like,
well, the actors maybe. I know. I'm sure Kevin, like this. I think by the end of it, he couldn't even stay awake for the fight scene because he had like 1 hour's sleep for 3 weeks straight.
Yeah, but it's still like, even one of my favorite scenes is the one where they're about to go to the funeral, like the wake, right? And then they're like, it's a 4 o'clock on a Saturday. Who wants to go to a convenience store there? And it like cuts to the people banging. But if you look at it, it's supposed to be angry fucking people. Every single person there that's banging is fucking smiling and laughing the whole time.
Well, and it's
right?
sort of like the beginning with the merchant of death thing where they're throwing the cigarettes at them. If you actually look at them, yeah, they're just having a time like pelleting Dante with cigarettes, right? Hey, at least they weren't lit.
Sure. But yeah, and then you had Scott Mosier, but yeah, he played Snowball, who was William the Indian Man-Child. He was also the angry fucking customer who ended up like fucking shooting the ball into the sewer.
Yes.
And he played an angry mourner. But you also had Walt Flanagan, who's like Kevin Smith's best friend, who played like 7 different fucking characters in this film.
He played the dude that was upset they were talking about like porn. He played the guidance counselor with the eggs, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, the guy who he was one of the people that were throwing the cigarettes too. So all I gotta say, Chris, is once your Women That Suck film, if I'm not like 7 different people, obviously in this film, like obviously I'm not as good as friend as you make it seem to believe.
I thought we were co-hosts. I didn't realize we were friends. That's breaking news, everyone. Breaking news. You heard it here first.
I'll remember that next time I get the sad text like, hey, it's my birthday and my family's coming over. We really like you to come because your family.
Yeah. So something that is kind of sad. So Lisa Spawner, who played Caitlin Bree, died in 2017. She was only 44. It's listed as an accidental overdose to hydromorphine, but she was dealing with like cancer and a bunch of other stuff, and like that's super fucking young, man. Like 44 is like, oh shit, that's like how old I am right now. So yeah, I'd prefer not to be dead.
Which did delay kind of the third movie too, right? Because Jeff Anderson really kind of didn't want to do it with her gone, right?
So, and again, you haven't seen Clerks 3 yet?
No, not yet.
So it'll be interesting. I have not. I mean, Clerks 2 was bad enough that I didn't need to fucking sign up for Clerks 3. I probably should watch it at some point just to see. I don't think you should be you don't remake movies like this. Like Boondock Saints, right? They make another one, garbage. Because the original film has a certain essence to it. It's you know, everything coming together at right place, right time. And like that zeitgeist term really like applies. And then you're just kind of like wearing the tread off the thing, you know?
Yeah, but I think, especially with this Clerk series, is it's the more autobiographical. Oh fuck.
Okay, don't hurt yourself.
Oh my God,
Autobiographical.
Yes. Series, because it's literally each film is a section of Kevin Smith's life, right? Like Clerks is him trying to make his first movie while living in the thing. Clerks 2 is him dealing with, you know, becoming a father. And 3 is him after his fucking heart attack.
Is it after is well, I mean, it is after his heart attack, but does it really actually have anything to do with that? You haven't seen the movie.
Yes, but in the fucking trailer, Randall has a heart attack and like, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
Oh.
And decides to make a fucking movie. So
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, I don't have to watch the movie to know what the plot is based on the trailer.
What is there anything else about? I mean, I think everybody should see Clerks. I think everybody probably has seen Clerks. I mean, I like the cinematography in it is great. That's the DP is David Klein, who again works with Kevin Smith all the time. He was on Cop Out, Chasing Amy, Mallrats. It's weird because it's like not super stylized, but it's very well composed, but it's also not overly simple. They have like these, you know, tight inserts and a bunch of other stuff. They do a really good job. Like they, you know, the work they did in 21 days, especially like, as we've discussed, you know, shooting kind of when the store is shut. It's a really well-made film. Like it's well edited, which I mean, Kevin Smith and Mosher also were the editors on it. It'd be interesting to know how long it took them to actually edit it together. But yeah, I think it's a great film. I think it still holds up as long as you're, you know, okay with the fact that the language is going to be, it's like a period piece, right? Like it is, this is the 90s. This is what it was. Smoking cigarettes, maybe saying off-colored shit, drinking coffee, right? So, and no real hopes for the future.
Yeah, that was the 90s. But now I can at least breathe a sigh of relief that we can still be friends.
Oh, just because I like Clerks doesn't mean I like every.
No. We're ending it. Don't say another word, right? Because you're gonna need me for the next episode. And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com.
Well, Kevin Smith is, I mean, has, you know, done like tons. I think he's done like 17 films and his podcast, and like he's pop culture. Like he's Silent Bob. He looks weird skinny though. It doesn't look right. It does not look right. I know it's good for his health.
He looks good, man.
You think he looks
for
good?
Him. Yeah, good for fucking him, man. Like, you know, like the weird thing is watching that Q&A he did while he was fucking having the heart attack, because that's on, like, I think you can watch it on Tubi, the comedy special, and that's literally while they filmed it while he was fucking having the heart attack.
Well, yeah, he basically goes to his green room and it's like,
this guy is fucking hiking a fucking trail every fucking day, right? It's taking his health seriously, so we can have like 25 more years of fucking
Clerks, the final. It's
like Clerks 6. It's them in the fucking retirement home up front. Like, where's the dead pants? Where's the diapers? And they're just giving everybody else shit.
That's right. You got anything else?
No. I'm glad we can still be friends.
We can for now. Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.